Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Carla Nelson, creator of Black Fashion World Foundation. Happy Thursday to you. I am so glad to have an incredible person, very humble. We were just talking a few minutes ago, and he is so humble. So I know you all are going to enjoy this conversation. We've had a little bit of technical difficulty, so just bear with me just a second. But in just a second, I am going to bring into you the legendary visual artist, documentary photographer, Jamel Shabazz. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He'll correct me if I'm not. So one second, let me get him right on. Jamel.
Hey, peace, family.
Can everybody hear Jamel? Please text me. I want to make sure our technical things are working out okay. If not, I know there's a bit of a delay, but if not, there's another option. But before we really get in depth in this conversation, I want to make sure that you can hear Jamel. So, Jamel.
Hey, what's going on, Carla? Got it together?
Yes, I think we got it together. I hope we got it together. Let's see.
Oh, all right. Get me loud and clear.
I can hear you. I want to make sure everybody can hear you. So I'm going to wait just a second. There's a little bit of delay. Yes. Okay. Yes, we're in business. Yay! Oh, goodness. I tell you what, in this new COVID world, we are all experiencing something. I heard it's amazing because, Jamil, I heard I was watching Tamron Hall today, and she was talking with somebody. She actually had a mermaid on performing. It was amazing. You have to see it. And I remember her stopping for a moment, and she was talking to somebody, and she said, "You all, there are some technical things that go on behind the scenes that you will never know about." And I know how she feels. Oh my God, I'm so excited to have you tonight. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. I am honored to have you.
And I thank you for even seeking me out. I'm your brother.
See, you know what? I know this conversation is going really good. It's already going really well. It's just wonderful. I was just telling, I wish we had we have an audience, but I wish we had them so we could hear them applauding and everything. So we'll have to do that the next time. But I just want to tell you, thank you, for capturing us, for telling our stories, for capturing us in the way that you have. I read something about preserving our history, and if you hadn't done it, I mean, I don't know who would in the way that you have. So I'm going to tell you thank you. I want to tell you I'm honored to talk to you. I mean, you're international. I mean, come on, you have books. You have several books. You can talk about that tonight. Your work has been published in books. Your work has been in editorial magazines, in exhibitions, in film, I believe on an album cover or two. Just incredible, and you're international, so just honored to talk to you, and I know everybody else is excited to hear from you as well. But with that, let's talk. If I understand correctly, your father was a photographer?
Yes, he was. My father picked up photography at the age of 17 years old when he went in the Navy. He spent years there. He was trained by, he went to one of the best schools in the country at that time. So when he got out of the Navy in the 1960s, through the Korean photography, he would go on and pass it on to not only to me, but also to my brother. A younger brother who has always also picked up the craft. It has just been pretty much generations. I'm a family photographer. Not only my father, but my uncles also picked up the craft.
Really? Okay. So it must be a family gift.
It is. It's a family blessing, and with that, I just feel I have a responsibility to continue on that legacy, and not only for my family, but for other families as well. It's very important that we preserve that family history. Yeah. So the role of the photographer is very vital because we need that. And during these very difficult times, I'm finding that a lot of family history is being lost. Of course, we have so many people that have their stuff in storage, they're losing their homes. And what I'm beginning to discover is a lot of those photo albums that have been around for generations being lost. I'm very troubled behind that. So one of the things I strive to do is not only preserve my family history and culture, I try to encourage others that is indicative of them to hold on to those very important images. I think that we've gotten away from a lot of that. Of course, the technology of today, where we have stuff online and we have JPEGs and digital cameras, but back in the old days, we had hardcore copies of photographs, hardcover, should I say, and now that's being lost right now. So I'm trying to stress upon people that it's very important to preserve the family history like never before, because so much stuff is going to the curb, and I'm very troubled behind that.
And I agree with you because and I honestly I didn't really my family wasn't one to really focus on taking a lot of pictures. And last year, unfortunately, which unfortunately, but then looking at COVID, kind of fortunately, my grandmother was in a nursing home and she passed away. And I began to jump into those pictures. So it took something like exactly what you're talking about for me to stop and say, wait a minute, I have to do more with these pictures, and pull them out and hold on to them. And because of that,
Yes.
I have something that I'm going to be launching very soon that I remind me, and I don't want to take away from that right now, but that I'll be launching very soon to help us as African Americans leave our mark in time during this period. But remind me, we can talk about that later.
Okay.
When we talk about that, and I think you've already hit on it, but the craft of photography from your eyes. Talk about that. What is the craft? What's the root? You just talked about the importance, but then when we talk about that creativity, that creative aspect for it from you, what does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I have to say that it's a divine gift from the Creator. That's what it is. That's the main thing. I'm so grateful, and I count my blessings every single day, for the fact that I can see. We live in a world where you have so many people blind,
right,
who are blind and can't see. So I feel in having this gift, I have a responsibility to use my eyes to make some type of contributions to the world through my image.
Mm-hmm.
So with the gift of vision, I try to create images that inspire love and joy, and at the same time inform and educate what it's really all about. Mm-hmm. Recognizing and not only having the gift of vision, but also having purpose. Mm. And I find that my purpose in life is to contribute to the preservation of our history and culture. I have to continue on that legacy that was passed on to me from my grandfather and my father, because it was very important to them to have those family photo albums that were in the home that we saw. And that allowed us to see the importance of both preserving our history and culture, but also the power of photography. Mm-hmm. So at the age of 15 years old, I physically picked up a camera. But let me go back before I turned 15. As a youngster, still in my single digits, my father had a vast library of photography books, and I used to study those books often. And due to the visual language of photography, I was informed of so much that was going on around the world and in the country. And it allowed me early on to see the power of photography and the role that both the photographer plays in photographs. So I want to just be a part of that process, that creative process, and do whatever I can to make sure that our history and culture is preserved. Start with my family, my local community, and as I start to advance, the larger world. So again, and I look at the camera as a compass. The camera is like three things. It's a time machine. It records time and motion. It's a compass, and it's a weapon. So in having a camera throughout my life, it has navigated me. It has helped to guide me and see a larger world that I think if I wasn't a photographer, I would be unaware of that world. And photographs served as like roadmaps that help guide me to different places.
Wow, that's a lot. Those are tweetables. That's wow. Yeah, that's a lot. When you talk about like the roadmap to guide you to different places, can you share maybe one instance of that?
Sure. Well, I'll start with the book that educated me as a youngster. I speak about it often. Okay. This is the book, Black and White America, that was on my father's coffee table by Leonard Freed. And I picked up this book at about 8, 9 years old. It's a photography book. The photographer was what we concerned with what was going on within the Black community. He saw racism and discrimination, and he wanted to document it. He happened to be white, but he had empathy towards our struggles as people. So as a youngster, I remember seeing this book on our coffee table, and it was signed, and I started to examine it. And it's through these photographs I saw Harlem for the very first time. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. At that time, I wasn't really traveling. So through this one book, I was exposed to different communities. I saw Harlem. I saw the segregated South. I was exposed to racism for the first time, and I learned a whole new vocabulary. So in seeing the photographs and the captions that might say Charlotte, North Carolina, and in Galveston, Texas, I was being exposed to geography that I wasn't really familiar with, and I saw the power again of the photographer and traveling different locations, seeing things. So it inspired me early on to want to travel and see this larger country and even the larger world with just photographs. But this one book was really the cornerstone of the foundation which I stand on, because I was so moved behind the racism in America. My parents at that time weren't really speaking to me about what was going on. Mind you now, I came up during the 1960s. So the Vietnam War was going on, the Civil Rights was going on, there was a lot of assassinations going on. It was a very turbulent time. So it's through the language of photography that I was educated to see a broader world. And it just inspired me to just want to just dig deeper. Not only dig deeper in terms of studying photographs, but also just want to travel outside my community to get a gauge on what was happening.
I like what you said, through the language of photography. I'll have to listen to this again to be sure to share that quote, but through the language of photography, I'm paraphrasing, you were able to explore the world. So that enhanced your mind.
Yeah, yes, it did. It was just something special about photography books. I got very bored with school. I felt that what I was being taught wasn't really serving me. So I would leave school and I would spend a lot of time in the library. And it's publications like Ebony Magazine, Jet, National Geographic, Light Magazine that really fascinated me with just the images. And it exposed me to just a larger world that I wasn't seeing. And I spent a lot of time in the library. It's interesting. People coming up, he said the library stands for where all the lives are buried in. So I would go there and just seek information and just guidance. And when I finished reading a lot of the American publications, I would go in and read foreign publications to get even broader understanding of the world. There was French publications, French Match magazine. That was the equivalent to the Life magazine at that time. There was the Spiegel magazine, which was German. So now I'm looking at perspectives from different countries, and at the same time, I'm learning different languages, get a better understanding of what was going on. So my mind was always curious about what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt the library was that space, that oasis that really fed my soul and just informed me of things that were going on in society that would really plant seeds in my mind that actually came into fruition a few years ago. It started to really manifest itself as I got older and my purpose in life became more clearer. I started to reflect back on my foundation and all of the jewels and information I was given early on that helped me to be on this path right now. Because that's how I look at it. It's beyond photography. I look at myself more as an alchemist, and my role is to freeze time and motion while preserving our history and culture, using the camera as that compass to guide me through life. One of the films that really informed my practices was the movie The Book of Eli, a very important movie that I speak about often, and a friend of mine told me about it. And Denzel Washington stars in it. It's a film, I believe, based in like 2080, the future. And Denzel plays this person, the survivor, who has this book he's trying to deliver. Hardships and envy and jealousy and hatred. And despite all that, he's just continuing on this path. And he's constantly being reminded never get off the path. But I bring that up because that film informed my practices, that I realized that I was blessed with the mission or the assignment to record our history and culture, not only within the Black and brown communities, but on a global level. And my objective in doing so was to freeze these moments in time for this moment that we're living in right now. These very dark and difficult times, a time in which so many people are going through anxiety and uncertainty. And now what I've done is I revisit my archive, and behind me sits just a few of the books or photographs I've collected over the past 45 plus years of this oral visual history. And now at this stage in which people are going through difficult times, I'm able to share them on social media. Yeah. These frozen moments are now being thawed out, and so much information is being revealed behind these images I've taken over time. Oftentimes, only meeting the people I photographed for a few minutes, but freezing that moment. And now after 30, 40 years, I share it on social media, and so much information is being brought to my attention regarding the photograph I took 40 years ago. And that allows me to see that I had a really greater role in life, that it was beyond anything I could ever imagine, because my work is touching the hearts and souls of people around the globe. Just earlier today, I received messages from people in Australia and Poland, and they spoke about the impact that my photographs had. Not a day goes by when people don't write me and tell me that my images bring them joy in the morning. that allowed me to realize that these frozen moments that are now being thought out are having impact on people around the world. So I look at my work now as being visual medicine. It's helping to heal. It's helping people deal with uncertainty. When they see photographs of love and joy, it gives them a sense of hope, especially in a time in which we're seeing so many images of uncertainty, of long lines, of people trying to get food, people voting and not knowing what the future entails. My photographs gives them a glimpse of a different day and time. So when you turn on your computer in the morning and my images come up on your feed, it brings about a certain emotion that makes you feel good. And that allows me to realize that this is my duty, that I have to do this every day. I have to post images that cause you to reflect.
So talk about that for a second, because people have to think, what you said is you've frozen these images in time. So when you're talking or now speak to those photographers that are listening or will hear this again about the fact that what they're doing is not just taking a picture, about that responsibility over the years. I think you've laid it out, but is there any one thing that you just really want to drill into them about that? Say to them when they're thinking about capturing these shots, and then talk about for yourself when you're capturing the images, because you mentioned if you've only met people for a few moments. So talk about the candid shots versus the pose shots.
Well, I'll go with your first question about photographers of today. We need all hands on deck. And photographers and artists in general, we have the ability, photographers of today, to create and again to freeze time. So I'm really moved with the fact that never before in history are so many people armed with tools that allow them to freeze time in motion and record the history of what's going on. And the Black Lives Matter protests are a clear indication of a lot of photographers and even amateur photographers out there, or just people with common folks with cell phone cameras have the capability to take images, but also video. It's through that practice now that we're seeing more images that are informing us. So we need that right now. We need to see images of hope, protest, and even the brutality. Because luckily that we had people on deck to document what happened with George Floyd. But it wasn't a person with a video camera. We never have seen it before. So as photographers and creative people, we have the ability to really make change through our craft. And I just say to everyone, if you see images out there, to me, again, going back to the camera being my compass, it leads me to certain situations I need to see. And in seeing things, now I'm the ability to freeze it for future generations to look at as a reference. Photographers of the day, we need you to document injustice. We need you to use your camera as a weapon to combat racial stereotypes. We could balance that out because a lot of the negativity is being pushed out there. There's a lot of visual poison out there right now, and we need people to show the hope and joy. There was this speculation that Black fathers are not around, so we could offer a counter narrative by photographing Black fathers. They talk about a lot of conflict in the Black community. Let's focus on the joy, because we know that these problems exist, but let's change. Let's focus our lens on some of the hope and the positivity that exists, because we need to see a lot of that imagery right now, because I think that a lot of the images are really poisoning the minds of our people. And I often speak about what I've seen many years ago when programs like Jerry Springer and Maury Povich, it's like that negativity is being pushed out there. And those subliminal messages are poisoning the minds. And we have to balance that out. So we need artists, all types of artists, the poets, the musicians, the rappers, to use their voice, to use their gifts, to try to make this world a better place. I say that right now. We are living in a very critical time. Unlike anything I've ever experienced before in my life. So we just need all conscious people to use whatever gifts they have to make this world a better place. So when it comes down to my process and candid images, there's no one way of me doing it. There's certain portraits I take, and there's candids. There's no difference. It's all a matter of what I feel. When my father taught me the craft as a teenager, he gave me balance. He taught me the importance of he showed me how to create beautiful portraits. And at the same time, he helped me to see the importance of documentary photography and candid images. And so within my work, there's an even balance. I'm not going to say one is over the other. It's all what I feel inside. I believe in when I approach people, if I want to get a portrait, I introduce myself and I state my intentions. Because in this day and time, even back 20, 30 years ago, you just can't approach a person and take a person's picture without asking permission. And for me personally, it was bigger than the photograph. What I wanted to do more so is understand why I met this particular person on the path. Why did our paths cross at this particular juncture? And in that process of trying it out, a photograph was made as evidence of our conversation. Because what people don't see within my images is the connections I have with the people, the conversations I've had. And nobody really understands that because it's bigger than photography. What it was more about was trying to sound the alarm and educate people what was going on in this society. When I really got heavily into photography back in 1980, I had just returned home from the military. I was stationed overseas in Germany for 3 years. I was gone, and I was missing a lot of what was happening. I promised myself when I returned back home that I would never be without memory. But that was one idea. When I came back to New York, back in the 80s, there was a lot of killing going on. A lot of young men were killing other young men. There was a lot of hatred going on within our community. So I needed to be a voice. And I found that photography gave me an even deeper voice in the community because now I can engage young people and get engaged in what was going on. So it's about having conversations with them. First, recognizing who they are, recognizing their greatness, their beauty, and using that as a foundation to have deeper conversations with them about what was going on in terms of trying to eradicate a lot of the hatred that was going on. Because unbeknownst to me at the time, a lot of people I was photographing, they had beef with each other. And I didn't realize that until much later on. So I was photographing guys that were enemies to each other. And I acted as a mediator, and I was building with them about my personal experiences, the importance of education, the importance of being mindful of drugs that be in place in our community, and the violence that we inflict upon each other. I was trying to educate our people. Talk about Black Lives Matter today. For me, back in the early days, it was nation time. I came home to a period I viewed as nation time. You know, I am a recipient of the Black Gospel movement in the 1960s and 70s. I caught that baton, and with that, I felt I had a responsibility to use my creativity to bring about positive change within my community. So, again, when you look at my photographs, you'll see people I have a profound love for. I want to engage them. There are certain photographs that were candid images. I just took them, but the majority of my work at that time was engagement. I wanted to know who you are. I wanted to introduce you to who I was and my intentions, you know, in hopes that we could avert both the crack and the AIDS epidemic. Because mind you, now when I came up, we were hit with 2 epidemics. Think about that. Look at what's going on today with the corona virus. But when I came home from the Army, we had AIDS and we had the crack epidemic. 2 epidemics that hit the Black community like a 1-2 punch. And then we had a new president, Ronald Reagan, who enacted a war on drugs. So it was a very turbulent time. And as a young man, I felt I needed to use my voice to just inform people what was going on from my perspective. So it was all about saving lives more than anything. And again, the photographs that I made became evidence of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. So you have said a lot there because you developed a relationship with these people. The first thing, going back, you said you recognized the beauty in them. I'm paraphrasing some of it. So you honored that person first. And then you started a conversation with them. And then you were able to catch those photographs because it sounds like to me you were using it as a ministry and you were drawing that beauty of that person out, that essence, so you could really capture that image.
Right. Because we would beat down as a people. We didn't love ourselves. You know, a lot of times we hated ourselves and we belittled each other. I wanted to bring out the beauty in our people. I saw the souls of a lot of individuals, the hearts. You know, and I was trying to win hearts and minds, you know, through my ministry is the right term for it. Because it was really about that. The camera was just a tool that allowed me to practice what I need to do. But my higher goal was to inform people and educate them in hopes of inspiring the spirit of love in a time in which there was so much hatred going on.
So here I go. If you have people who are taking pictures, if their mission is just money versus really capturing something, what do you say to that?
It's all good. We need money to survive. I mean, money is a means of exchange, and we need it right now. And this field is an opportunity where you can make money. I think that's a good thing. A lot of individuals are not going to take the position which I take. I have a responsibility. This is my duty to do this here. I inform my students that you have a responsibility. You can make money, but what you have to look at is the higher prize, and that's inspiring a mind. That's putting somebody on the right path. And I think with that, you get a greater reward. It's about striving to do good deeds. But the money part is something that we need it, but I don't really focus on that. And I tell people, and I can't really tell people they should not focus on it, because some people need to survive. I have a lot of friends now who are struggling photographers, and photography is their main means of making money right now. So I understand it, but I say to them, in the process, while you are engaging people with your lens and you have the ability to use your camera to get into different doors, try to plant seeds in the minds of people that need it. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. And now with this ability as a photographer, you can engage a lot of people. Because there's something about photography and photographers. We are able to enter a lot of doors. And a lot of times people don't want to be too preachy, but you are in a position to say things that could change a person's life. Even if you just tell a person how beautiful they are. You have a beautiful spirit. You know what I mean? A compliment as a photographer. The idea that you just want to take a photograph of a person because you feel their soul, it makes them feel good. So I strive to encourage people around me to pick up the craft, to use this opportunity to inspire hope and joy. It just takes a few moments as you focus in, as you training your lens on a subject. As they stand in front of you, you're getting that focus right. You can say simple things that can plant seeds that could change a person's life. So I try to tell people that we need all hands on deck right now. Even if it's something to say, yo, you're going to vote. It's important that you take this opportunity to vote like never before. You can even, as you train your lens, speak about the importance of health and nutrition. Simple seeds can go a long way and change lives. Right. So I say to a lot of the photographers today, again, we need all hands on deck. And you can make a difference out there. And you balance out the money. That's going to come in through time. But I think that your greater reward comes when you do good work. You do good deeds, all that stuff secondary, and it'll come to you naturally.
So when we talk about the craft of photography, when people what are some of the keys to success to developing those incredible shots?
I think the key, first of all, is self. To look at yourself. What is your purpose? Right? You have this camera. What is your intentions? What are your goals and objectives? And I think for me, again, my goal and objective is to contribute to the preservation of our history and culture. When I approach people on the street and I let them know that, and I start to build them about, my intentions, that gives way to people to open themselves up to me and smile or show love. Because in a lot of my photographs, I might even say, when I get couples that might say to me, what do you want to do? I say, show some love. Love is that key ingredient in which I look for in all of my photographs. So I think that when you say that, it manifests itself in the images which I create. In a lot of my photographs, there's eye contact. There's smiles that come into play because it's a manifestation of the energy I give to them. It's all a mirror. If I come to them and say, let me take a picture, this is going to be a cope. First of all, more likely a person will reject you. But if you take a moment and you introduce yourself and you show them work that you have, because I oftentimes carry a portfolio to give them an idea so they can see what it is I'm trying to do. So now we build the bridge. And when you have that, now there's an openness, and then it's manifested in the images in which I create. If you study my photographs, there's a sense of joy in all of my photos. There's a comfort level that you see in the majority of my photographs. If you don't get that, you're not going to get the shot. It's not just going and just taking a person's picture, keeping it. My images represent engagement. And if you look really deep into my subject's eyes, you see me. I'm coming with a good heart and with good intention. And that's what's manifested in the majority of photographs I get. It's a reflection of my heart.
I think I heard, and I might have misunderstood it, so correct me, but I think I heard one time you made a statement about the subway being your studio.
At the time it was, because New York has one of the largest subways in the world, systems in the world. And I liked it because, in inclement weather, I would be on the train, it could be raining, snowing, and there's a whole nother life below, the New York Underground, and always subject matter. So that became one of my studios. The lighting was always good, and the subject matter was endless. So I used to like to ride the trains a lot, go with car to car, looking for people. and a lot of friendships were developed during those train rides.
Wow.
So at the time, I don't do that anymore. I spent about 40 years of my life riding the trains and documenting every aspect of it, from the people going to and from work, those that are going through struggle, and just everyday life. And it's one of my most largest bodies of work, besides just portraits of people. The subways represents, I'll say, maybe 25% of all of my photographs.
Wow. And I think I might have seen some photographs recently of you capturing some of the times we're facing now. I think I saw some of those. When you're seeing these shots now, what are some of the thoughts?
That's a good question, because I was just shooting earlier, and I'm trying to get used to it. I haven't been out a lot, since the beginning of the year. Every now and then I might go out, but not as much as I used to, by no means. But in going out today, I had to adjust myself to people wearing masks. And it's already difficult enough to engage people without the mask, but living in a society now where people are wearing masks and they're socially distanced from each other, I find it very troubling, and it's very painful. There's a flip side of it that, with the mask now, we are not really getting too deep, taking people on face value. And perhaps we can get to a person's soul now, because, we are a very visual society, and we become judgmental when we see people. Without a mask, you have to look at things from a very different perspective right now. And it's not, it's very interesting, because I took some really beautiful photographs today of people I didn't know, and they were open to it. And I only saw half their faces, but I was able to feel their spirits and capture these really beautiful moments. But at the same time, like, where are we going as a society where everyone's wearing a mask now? It is required. How are we going to move forward? How are we going to really see a person, in their fullness, and when we only seeing half their faces, and everyone, and for the most part, people are very leery about you being too close to them. So it's a very difficult time for me. I mean, even for me to wear a mask, it's very uncomfortable, but I have to respect it, and respect others around me. So it's a painful time, to be honest with you. We were already distant as a society, but now this virus has made us even further, has pushed us even further apart, I feel. And now there's a great degree of suspicion with your neighbors. People that you could normally meet and greet and embrace with a hug. We've lost that now. I grew up in a time when that was everything. You saw your brother, you gave him some dap, you embraced him. And now we don't have it. So again, it's producing an even deeper disconnect in a time that we really need to come together.
And you bring out something very good, and then we're gonna go over to the business of photography. But I don't think, and even it must have been a reason for me to ask that question, but I never would have thought. I know I watch the news, and I look at the newscasters and how they're reporting on the news, and I often think, man, what are they experiencing? They're holding their faces together, but what are they experiencing? And so just listening to you and asking that question, we don't realize that in documentary photography, we don't think about the fact that you're catching these images, you as well as other photographers. And how do you, that's something to think about. Again, I have to say thank you for capturing those images, because these are images that are going to tell the story in years, decades, centuries to come. But you're on the front lines too, capturing these images.
Gotta be. There's no other place to be than the front lines. We have to be out there, because it's history being made every second of the day. So I'm just striving to do my part to make sure that our history is preserved, or that these moments is seen from a compassionate eye, a document. Because you can have individuals that don't have any, and they show the worst about them. So we have to, again, offer that counterbalance, and that's why I feel I have to be on the front lines to show a counter narrative on a lot of levels. If you look at my work, it's not just one dimension. I try to show beauty within all people. Confucius once said, "Everything has its beauty, but not everyone sees it." I try to find beauty in everybody, and I try to look at things from a balanced perspective, because sometimes we might see things in one way, and there's just different levels. I try to show all sides there in my creative process.
Okay. So, talking about the business of photography, you had and will continue to have a successful 40-year journey. Books, film, album covers, exhibitions, magazines. What are some tips you offer to emerging photographers to get those type of opportunities, and what things do they need to think about?
I think what's very essential is to have goals and objectives. What is it that you want to do? What is your vision? And photography is very vast. You got documentary, you have fashion, you got street. It's very complicated now because so many people have cameras. Unlike when I grew up, back in the days, a lot of people didn't have cameras. Today, everyone has, and I know so many photographers. I think it's very important to create a body of work that's very close to your heart. And then study some of the greats that did it before you. Those photographers that work inspire you. Study them, try to get a gauge on what they did to get to where they're at. For me, Gordon Parks was a prime example of a photographer that guided me on a particular path. He didn't limit his photography. He did documentary, he did fashion, he did fine art. So his versatility, his ability to be versatile in that particular area informed my practices. I said, I'm not going to just do one type of photography. I'm going to do a little bit of everything. And then he did a lot of exhibitions. And exhibitions is key. Early on, before I had books, I introduced the world to my photography because we had exhibition opportunities. So I would submit to different contests. If I won, I would have my work in there, collaborations with other artists. So it put me in a position to showcase my work and to meet the audience, but collaborate with other photographers that help to develop a stronger foundation. Exhibitions are very important. And have a clear vision on what it is you want to do. What exactly is it you want to do? Because anyone can pick up a camera, but what is your vision? Having a very clear vision is very, very key. My father stressed to me early on about themes. It's one thing to walk out in the street with a camera, but you have no vision, you have no themes in mind. Themes to me were, for example, mothers and daughters, fathers and sons, twins, young people, old people. When you have that type of theme, those themes in mind, now you have a body of work. You have a concrete vision, and you could build off that. So I think that's important. Back in the days, it was easy to get it wasn't as difficult to get a book published. Once you build that theme, like for me, back in the days was that theme. There was a void. A lot of photographers weren't captured in the 80s. So in studying the publishing industry, I knew there was a void there, and I was able to fill that gap with my work. So when I went to my publisher with that body of work, they immediately accepted the idea, and they published my first book back in the days. So I still encourage photographers who have a little bit of time in to consider doing books. Books provide you with an opportunity to showcase your work to a larger audience. It's a joy when you get your book out of your work. So try to make that happen if you can, even if you self-publish. Sometimes you have to invest in your own money to make things happen. Understand the power of social media and take to social media to not only share your work, but to follow other photographers that are making certain moves, because they can give you an insight on how to make things happen. Seek mentorship. That's very key. It is, never in the history can you reach out to people and DM them and get a response in many cases. So connect with photographers that inspire you. And I think that's a good thing to do. Again, I've had Gordon Parks, James Vanderzee, Leonard Freed, Stephen McCurry. I had a host of photographers do their photography book that gave me the inspiration to make things happen. I also went to art shows, photography exhibition, and I looked at work on the wall before I even did exhibitions. I said, one day I'm going to have my work on the wall. So seeing that inspired me to build up a body of work that qualified to be an exhibition wall. So those are some of the keys right there. But I think that it's very important that you have goals and objectives. What is it you want to do? And it's a very competitive field, and it's not. You gotta think outside the box. You just can't do work that's been done already. If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it with a different spin. Because I'm finding now a lot of the work today looks very much the same because so many people got cameras out there. Go less travel. Create work that you see people are not doing. Fill the voids up. And come up with themes that nobody has really tackled on before. It's easy to go to Black Lives Matter protests and document that. But when you do that, a lot of the work looks the same. So if you're going to go to, for instance, a Black Lives Matter protest, shoot it from a very different perspective that no one has really seen before. Because if not, you just got people holding up signs. It all looks the same. So discover your own voice and your own vision, and that's very important. And that's something I've always done. I've analyzed the work of other photographers, but I created my own signature style. That when people look at it, they have a feeling that I've taken those type of images.
Yeah. Okay. When photographers are creating their work, I mean, this is their own creation. What are some of the things that they need to know, about protecting and preserving their creations and their rights?
Well, for me, right now, I try to make sure that my work is an institution right now. Because I build up a massive body of work, so it's important that it's preserved for future generations. So I've made donations to a number of universities and institutions of higher learning to make sure that my work is in those archives. To develop your archive, to have your work structured and just in different things. To have external hard drives to make sure that your work is preserved in case you lose your computer as a malfunction. You don't want to lose everything. So that you have the external hard drives to get your work copyrighted. Is very important. So those are some of the areas in which I would inspire photographers to consider. Back up your work. Try to get it in different collections, which is very vital. And there's a lot of institutions that seek out the work of Black photographers, and it's to your benefit. In this day and time, there's a lot of places that a lot of museums that are struggling. It's all right to donate work to their collection because now it's in a collection, and then more than likely, as time goes on, they're going to pull out that work out of their collection and they exhibit. A prime example for me, the African American Museum, Smithsonian in Washington, put out a call out many years ago. They were looking to collect work. They were looking for donations. I donated a large body of work to the institution, and within a matter of a year, all of that work I donated was in an exhibition at that institution. So now it was exhibited and it's preserved. So it was a win-win. Wow. So those photographers, I would tell them, try to get your work in the institution. Whatever local community you come from, if there's a major museum or institution, consider donating a few pieces of your work. Because like I said, now it's there for generations. And when in your resume, you can say that your work now is in certain collections. So that's very important for me.
I hope you all were listening. That is a huge, huge, huge tweetable tip. Thank you. I wish I were. That's wow. That's why
it's about the money. I think we have to look beyond the money that's being needed. But I think that when you do things like that, it comes back to you tenfold. Another example: I donated a large body of work to the Bronx Museum. Within a matter of 6 months, that same body of work in which I donated was shown in Havana, Cuba, for the very first time. It's a collaboration between the museum and Cuba, the Cuban government, and that work was exhibited based off a donation. So sometimes you have to do things like that in order to maintain your presence and build a foundation and a relationship with the institution at the same time.
Incredible. Ooh, so I'm going to let me see. I'm going to see if this will work. We have some images here that Jamel was kind enough to share. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Let's see. I'm going to start with a couple, and I think so. Jamel will share a little bit about these images, the stories behind them, and then we'll do a few questions. I do have some questions, but I think you actually hit on most of the answers for the questions that I have, but we will see. Let's see how this works out. Jamel, can you see that image?
No, I can't.
You cannot see that image. Okay. So we will not do that because I want to make sure you see them, but that's okay because I am really enjoying talking to you anyway. And I know people are enjoying. Look at these comments. Yes. Daryl is, he tweeted your comment. Thank you. You have to look beyond the money. Jamel Shabazz. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, yeah, and someone else, Zadie said, she said, thank you for this conversation. I am living for it. So anybody, I know there's a little bit of a delay. So I have a couple of questions that I'm going to go ahead and present to Jamel that I received prior pre-submission, smart person. And anybody else who has questions, go ahead and put them in. Like I said, I know there's a bit of a delay. So by the time I get through these questions, I should have your questions. So one of the questions, Jamel, that I got, Caleb submitted this pre-event submission of, and Caleb, if you out there, feel free to put in any questions you have, was in regards to your equipment. About 35 millimeter or medium format? You know, I have no clue what any of that means. But yes, he's asking about your equipment and your tools. Like, do you use 35 millimeter or medium format?
I'm gonna be very honest with you. It's funny you said that because I use my cell phone. You know, my camera went out on me. I had a Sony, and it didn't work, and I used my cell phone. And I was good with that. I've used all type of cameras over time, but I'm gonna be very honest. I don't photograph like I used to. You know, I'm at a stage in my life where I've built up a very massive body of work, and I have now kind of like slowed down. So I work with a medium format over the years, you know, and I switched to digital. Because what I like about digital photography is now I can upload the images and share them with people in real time. And I love that. I don't have to worry about going to a lab and having to get my work printed anymore. So I worked with medium format for many, many years. And even with a rangefinder camera or an assortment of cameras. But today, it's not really the camera, it's the eye. It's what you're able to see. And I know a lot of young people want to go to film and have that experience, and I understand that. And it's a beautiful thing to go back to the foundation. But for me now, it's more just, it's the eye, what I see. The primary camera I walk around with is a digital Fuji camera. It gives me all the things that I want. It's simple, it's inexpensive, and I'm all right with that. You know, I'm not really impressed with big cameras anymore, but, you know, there are lenses that are really quality that really enhance the imagery. But the key is the eye. It's what you see. What I shot with my iPhone today, to me, was the equivalent of what I could have shot with a really quality SR single lens reflex camera.
Wow, and you know that's amazing because when we first started quarantine, somewhere along in there, I remember Essence, I believe it was, Naomi Campbell, the cover of the Essence magazine, she was shot with an iPhone, I think. I might be incorrect, but I seem to remember something about that. So the transition from digital to film, that's interesting. Okay. So one of the other questions he had was in regards to opportunities for income versus freelancing. What are some of the other streams that a photographer can use to make money other than just freelancing? Creative ways.
For me, I had a number of strategies. The first one was to publish books. So book publishing for me allowed me to have income. You know, with the royalties I got off my books was one. Exhibitions are good because now you can sell your prints. Licensing images to different organizations is good because that can generate a lot of funds. Because a lot of production companies look for images to license. I think that a lot of my money tends to come because I license out images to different projects, especially my documentary work. I do a number of campaigns. I've been very fortunate to work with Puma, Adidas, Nike over time. I did ad campaigns for them. I absolutely love it because it puts me in a position to create new work. And so those are some of the ways. Again, selling prints is not a bad thing either. So those are some of the main ways in which I generate income right now. And then there's other ways you can shoot weddings and different special events. You know, there's a lot. When you have a camera, there's no limitation to what you do in terms of making money. You just have to have a vision in terms of what it is you want to do. And you have really good prints, you sign them, you edition them. You know, it could bring in a few dollars. You know, you can make the money work for you. But there's ways because photography is a very expensive business, and you have to have it paid for yourself. So I look at prints that I created over time, and like I said, it could benefit you. Even though I don't like selling them, that's not what I do. But for photographers that are coming up when you do the gallery shows, that's not a bad way of making some money every now and then.
Okay, this is good.
And also by lecturing, you know, doing a series of workshops, another way you can make money. You know, of your experience. You know, at this age in my life now, a lot of institutions are reaching out to me because they feel that I have a certain amount of experience. So now I could do Zoom conversation and get some pretty decent money without having to leave my home. So I'm taking my personal experience and just taking it to the next level right now because there's an interest in that.
Mm-hmm. So say, which I don't think is going to happen. Actually, I can't say that. I have a small video camera that I have yet to use. But say I'm a new photographer and I'm just starting out in the business. What would you tell me?
I think the key for me personally, I carry the camera everywhere I went. So I tell everyone, you know, who has an interest in this craft, carry your camera everywhere you go, have it out and set because you never know you're going to see that moment that you could freeze in time that can change your whole entire life. Some of my most iconic photographs stem for me carrying my camera everywhere I went. I had it out. Not because some people have it in their bag, either they have the cap on. My camera, when I travel, is always out, set properly, and I'm always looking, because you never know, you may see something that could be really an iconic image, and you have the ability to freeze that moment in time. Is going to mean a whole lot. So practically all of my book covers to my various books they stem behind having my camera out and ready. So I would say to you and anyone who has an interest in this field, keep your camera everywhere you go. If I go to the corner store, the barbershop, my camera's with me, because you never know when you might see something.
Right. This has been so good. All right. So Jamel, I have truly enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise, I appreciate the questions.
Yes. And Lord knows I could go on, but I won't. We'll have to do it again. But Daryl did tweet for me. You have to have the eye. He got it. So we're gonna use these snippets again.
Let me go to my IG page, because a lot of stories are there. Because what's incredible about that page now is that a lot of people I photographed 20, 30, 40 years ago are reaching out, and they leaving comments about the photograph. I have my interpretation of it, but now what they're saying is blowing me away. It's so much behind those photographs that I've captured, and now it's helping me heal. So I tell everyone to go to my IG page. It's full of information that can really inspire you and help you really gain a greater understanding on the role that photography and photographers play in making the world a better place, and helping to heal people. Just capture the moment.
Yeah, incredible. I have learned a lot tonight. Definitely some good tweetables, definitely some good thoughts. Daryl says thank you. Daryl, do you have any questions? Daryl is a photographer. He actually photographed one of my events. Okay. Daryl, do you have any questions? If so, send them quickly. Granted, I know there's a delay, but with that said,
Daryl, hit me up with a DM, bro, so I can connect with you.
Daryl, did you hear that? Okay, follow at Jamel Shabazz.
Hit me with a DM.
If he didn't, he will, because I'll text him.
Any other questions, I'll take on Instagram. There's no problem. I always like to respond to people. I can.
Oh, you are the best. Are there any closing thoughts that you would like to leave with the audience?
Oh, no doubt about it. We are living in a very critical time, like never before, and we need all hands on deck. We have to play a vital role in bringing about change in society. We have to vote. We have to check on our loved ones. There's a lot of people now who are going through very difficult times. So it's very important. Mainly we start with our families. Sometimes that can be very complicated, but we don't know what the future holds. So it's very important that we pick up the phone and we start to engage people again. It's very important within our family we seek out the elders and engage them about how life was in the 70s, the 60s, 50s. To document them is very vital. And it's important that we try to bring some joy in this very cold world right now. It's a lot that we can do. Posting positive tweets, posting positive material, giving people encouragement. You know what I mean? Just having a sense of empathy. And we need that now because, again, we live in a world of so much hatred and uncertainty like never before. We have the duty to bring about change. And social media serves as a really great platform to convey messages of hope and possibility. So let us use our gifts that we've been given. And all of us have gifts. Just make this world a better place. And it's so much that we can do. Simple things that we can do to bring about change. But again, we need everybody to participate. Just start with our family and our neighbors and our community. We can bring about change. But it's a lot of work to be done. And as the Bible says, the harvest is ripe, but the labors are few.
All right. Well, I will share with you. Bonita Rose says, thank you both so much for this tonight. So I'm glad that everyone enjoyed it. Jamel, I am so thankful for you. So with that said, we will close it out. Everybody have a good night. Remember, follow at Jamel Shabazz on IG. And have a good night. Go watch the debate.
Thank you, Carla, for all the work that you're doing. And continue on. We need your voices out there. So I salute you for all the important work you're doing and keep it going. You have my full support.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.
Peace.